A while back, my brother and I were chatting over Skype with our friend Rosie in Australia. If you've listened to previous episodes of this podcast, you'll remember that she contacted us about a year and a half ago to invite us to join her and her friend Jane on a 2-month road trip across Europe and Asia as part of an event called the Mongol Rally. Now, to give some context, I'm 37. My brother Drew is a few years younger, but Rosie's somewhat older than both of us. So ever since our first conversation, there was one question I'd been dying to ask.
You know, if I just heard about the Mongol Rally for the first time, I would imagine it's just something that kind of young, adventurous kids in their 20s and 30s would do. And you don't fit in that demographic.
No. Thank you.
Well, to put it politely, I mean, have you thought about that, or is that something anyone's brought up?
Well, you know what? I think the people who have been a bit dismissive, I think that's actually what they're thinking. I think they're thinking, isn't she too old for this? Or isn't she old enough to know better than this? Or what does she think she's doing? This is what young people do. But you know what? That's crap. People do what they want to do to some degree these days. I mean, it's quite funny, actually, because Jane and I were talking about this massive party the night before the rally actually starts. Mm-hmm. And people tend to get dressed up for the launch of the rally and this sort of thing. And Jane and I were knocking around a few ideas about what we should wear. And I was banging on about getting unicorn onesies, which just looked too ridiculous for words. And Jane's refusing point blank. But she says what we ought to do is get ourselves a couple of grey wigs and dress up as really, really old people. So then we can throw off the wigs and say, ta-da! Look, we're not 70, we're only 50!
I'm Scott Gurian. I'm a longtime public radio and print reporter, and I've always loved traveling and experiencing different cultures. So I've created this podcast called Far From Home to document my adventures. To start off, I'm telling the story of this massive journey my brother and I are taking with our friends, raising money for charity. We're driving nearly 11,000 miles.
11,000?
That's right, a quarter of the way around the Earth. From London to Mongolia, through 19 countries, 8 time zones, 5 mountain ranges, and a few deserts, in a ridiculously tiny car.
It's like the Beverly Hillbillies.
It's not for the faint of heart.
It's the adventure, isn't it? It's just the thing of pushing yourself to the absolute limit, because I think it's going to take us out of our comfort zone, but in a really good way.
If you're just joining me, I suggest you go back and listen to the first few episodes in order to get up to speed and for all of this to make a bit more sense. Basically, I spent nearly a year shuffling between foreign consulates, getting vaccinated for diseases I've never heard of, and dealing with all sorts of logistical nightmares to make this trip a reality. And I'm bringing all of you along with me for the ride. On this episode, after many months of preparation, the big day finally arrives. And spoiler alert, Rosie and Jane didn't end up wearing those unicorn onesies or the wigs at the launch party. And they weren't actually the oldest rally participants we met. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning.
Continue straight onto Clapett Lane.
Oh, here's everyone.
Woo! We're here!
It was a Saturday evening in mid-July when the four of us, my brother and I in one car and Rosie and Jane in a second car, drove from Jane's home in Nottingham down to the Goodwood Raceway in southern England, the launch point for our journey. We arrived just before dusk at a field full of hundreds of tents and rally cars, and we were all really excited.
Wow, look at everyone camped out there.
It's like a mini festival. This is so great.
It's
so
awesome,
cool.
Isn't it? It's amazing.
For months, we'd chatted on Facebook with other Mongol rally teams from around the world, sharing planning tips and advice with each other as the day of our departure drew closer. Now, we'd finally get to meet them face to face to hear why they were going on this journey. It was a party atmosphere with music, socializing, and a lot of drinking. Another team came up to greet us and offer us some of their boxed Merlot. Meanwhile, I started walking around, asking other ralliers to share their stories. I found Liam Thorpe standing atop his car, putting golf balls off a piece of AstroTurf he'd glued on the hood.
I'm from Ontario, and then my partner, the guy I'm doing this with, he's also from Canada, but he's from BC, which is the West Coast. I was originally going to do it with someone else, but he hurt his back at the last minute, so then I asked this guy who's doing it with me now. So he got his passport just on Monday, so
oh my gosh,
less than a week ago. He's only doing Europe with me because he didn't have time to get his visas.
Yeah, right.
So I'm doing the rest alone.
So what route are you planning?
We're going to do through Europe to Turkey. I think that's pretty much what everyone else is doing. And then from Turkey, we're going to Georgia, Azerbaijan, across the Caspian Sea.
Putting the car on the ferry.
On a ferry, and then Kazakhstan the whole way, Russia, Mongolia.
And you're going to do all that yourself, pretty
much? Yeah.
Wow.
I wanted to do more countries, but despite having decided to do this a long time ago, I was working in isolation with no internet. So I really only started being able to plan about a month ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's all been really last minute.
Are you nervous at all about doing this yourself?
No.
I mean, it would be kind of lonely. Isn't it more fun with people? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm alone a lot, I guess. Well,
what do you do for work?
It's all forestry stuff. So we forest firefighting in the summer. Then in the winter, we cut trees down and burn them because they have pine beetle in them. So to prevent the spread of the pine beetle that kills all the trees, we cut them down. And that's one of the most dangerous jobs in Canada. So what I do for work is a lot more dangerous, I think, than what I'm doing right now. This is just my vacation.
What's the extent of your planning for this whole thing?
Pretty near zero, aside from, I know what countries I'm going to, but in terms of a timeline or expectations, it's pretty much zero, yeah.
Well, so you're setting out tomorrow. Do you know where you're staying tomorwer night?
No.
You have no idea?
No. I don't even know where I'm staying tonight. Maybe I'm sleeping right there.
You have a tent?
No.
You don't have a tent?
No. I'm going to get a tent at some point. Yeah, right now I don't have one.
Liam's gung-ho, fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants attitude is something I hear from many of the people I'd meet. Not only didn't he have a tent or much of a plan for his journey, but he just arrived in the UK 3 days earlier and managed to find a car in record-breaking time.
I had no idea, no internet. I was like, okay, I'm going to try to find Wi-Fi. So I got on a bus to in town, and then I got off the bus when I saw a McDonald's because I knew they'd have Wi-Fi. And then I just went on Auto Trader and Gumtree and looked at a bunch of different cars. I told everyone, I want to buy your car right now. And then this is a reply I got with an address. So I went there on the bus and the train, and this is the first one I went to, and it was great.
So within an hour or something?
Yeah. It was really quick. And then never driven on that side of the road or that side of the car.
Either have I, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big shock.
We've never driven stick either.
Okay. So there you go. Yeah, at least I drove stick. Oh, you're right fucked.
Yeah. With those words of encouragement, I said goodbye and wandered on through the rows of rally cars covered with stickers from their sponsors until I came to one particular vehicle that immediately caught my eye. Tell me your name and where you're from.
My name is Vidar. It's a Norwegian name, and I'm from Norway.
This is your car here?
Yes.
And I see you have a giant, was that a moose head on the back?
Yes, it's a stuffed moose's head.
That's a real moose head.
It's a real moose.
Mounted on the back of your car.
Yes. I think it's not so usual to have a moose on the back of your car.
No, it's never usual.
It's never even happened before.
You may be the very first, I think.
Yes.
Did you drive here from Norway?
Yes.
Yeah.
We drove 1,500 kilometers yesterday to get here.
Wow, that's a long way.
We had a couple of stops to close our eyes.
Yeah,
for a little bit.
A very long trip. Who is in your team?
Me and my friend there, and a woman. She's from the States. We just met today, so she joined our team on Facebook.
Okay. So you've never met her before?
No, it's first time today.
What's your name and where are
Jessica,
you from? Jessica,
from the States, around Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
And how are you feeling about you're going to spend the next several months with people you've just met for the first time today?
It's good. No, I love randoms.
So you're pretty excited about this?
Yeah, I'm so excited about this. It's more interesting because after you travel for a bit, you just want to go to countries that are kind of out there and not the standard, like Western Europe or popular, like South America, whatever, anything. It's just different. It's different. Yeah. It's never enough when you travel. You think you're checking things off your list, but it actually gets just longer and longer and longer. So I'm way pumped about this. Yeah, all my friends back home think I'm crazy. Yeah, I'm like, yes.
I've seen comments.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
I've seen comments. Every picture she posts, everyone is like, "Oh, I envy you.
Yeah.
I wish I could do the same." Oh,
I'm like, you can just grow some balls. I don't know.
Roberto Rosilla took that advice. He's a college senior studying aerospace engineering in California who took a break from his studies to drive to Mongolia with his best friend Nick. They named their car Penelope.
We're driving a 1970s Austin Mini. People have been attracted to it. They want to take pictures with it. So we bought the photo booth props. So as we go, we're going to ask people to use the photo booth and take pictures in the car.
Why is it that everyone wants to take pictures with your car? Describe the car.
So a 1970s Austin Mini is a very approachable car. A good example is that we were in New Mexico and we were filling up the gas tank, and this guy came up with his family. They're like, "What is that? Can you pop the hood?" And he looked at the engine and he was like, "My tractor's motor is bigger than this." And he's like, "I can literally pick it up with 2 hands. It's a small, cute car, but it's fierce in the engine." So we bought the car in Texas and drove it to California.
So wait, you bought the car in Texas, you drove it to California,
and then we actually shipped it.
You stuck the car in a boat.
We stuck the car in a boat and we shipped it here.
Wow.
His friend Nick handled all the arrangements and said it was a big hassle, but in the end, totally worth it.
I wanted something unique, right? Like, as much as I can get a Mini here, I want a Mini with California plates on it. Just for the novelty, I'll pay whatever it costs to ship it over.
But Penelope wasn't the most unique car I saw, or even the only one shipped across the ocean. I also met 2 guys from Colorado driving a 1960 Ford Falcon. And then there was Will Baisley from the appropriately named Team Highly Unlikely. After his teammates bailed on him, he planned on skipping the rally altogether. But then, just 8 weeks before the launch, he drove past a miniature powder blue convertible sports car that was sitting abandoned in a farmer's field for the past 40 years, and he hatched a plan.
My dad's got an old Land Rover, took that, dragged it out of the cabbage patch, took it home and started working on it.
And there was no engine in it?
There was, but it was completely shot, so I had to strip it and put a new one in. It's a Honda CB400 1981 Super Dream.
It's a motorcycle engine inside your car?
Engine, yeah, so no reverse. And I just rebuilt it from scratch in 8 weeks.
And so it has 2 wheels in the front and 1 wheel in the back?
All the driving's from the front, the back wheel just follows you.
Wow, and there's no roof?
There is a piece of fabric that stretches over it, but roof's a strong word.
Because if it rains, you're going to be out in the elements and everything.
Yeah, I'm more worried about the 90-degree Gobi Desert sun than the rain, but yeah, I've got a cover, so I should be all right.
How far do you think you'll make it?
All the way. I'm banking on it.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
So I mentioned at the beginning that while Rosie and Jane were among the most senior participants in this year's rally, they weren't the oldest. That award goes to Kay Simpson, who was there with her friend Anne McCaskill from Scotland.
I'm 70 this year, and my husband, he was 70. We were going to do it together to celebrate our 70th birthday. But unfortunately, he was killed 3 years ago. Anne has been a friend from forever, you know. And so I asked Anne if she'd like to do it. So she said yes. So we thought, right, we'll just do it together.
And you're, obviously, not to point out the fact, but it's a lot of young kids here, you know.
They're all young kids.
They were asking us last night if we were here, where our family's going, you know, as if we were
twice.
just...
You know, they said, "Oh, you here with your family going on this?" We said, "No, it's us."
People think this is just something for young kids to do. What would you say to them?
No, it's not only driving. Anybody can drive. I mean, we're not climbing Everest, and we're not frightened of things.
Anne said her husband was a bit worried, but otherwise both of the women's families and friends were excited for them, and even a bit envious. As I walked around chatting with all these teams, one thing I heard time and time again was that people were relieved the launch day had finally arrived. Tom and his girlfriend Libby were doing the rally to raise money for a children's hospice near their home in Cambridge, England. They'd wanted to bring their pet pig Frankie along on the trip, but they joked that he probably wouldn't be allowed in Iran. Unlike Liam, the guy from Ontario who hadn't even purchased a tent, Tom had tried to make most of his arrangements ahead of time, and it had been really stressful.
It's the most intense planning, organising I've ever done in my entire life. Our relationship's been very, very rocky. Like, if you're going to do this, it's a serious commitment to making sure you get all the right documentation, making sure you do the right thing. I know they try and put across on their website, like, wing it as much as possible, but seriously, don't wing it. Try and plan as much as you can, get it sorted out, and when it's all done, you'll feel so good. I got my best friend with me.
Thanks.
Everything's ready, and we're so excited to go.
Joe Rittenhouse and his teammates from Pennsylvania were also struggling to work out their differences, even though the rally hadn't yet officially begun.
Me and my girlfriend and my best friend are on this rally. My best friend and my girlfriend had a fight this morning, and it was vicious. It was like, this is the way we're supposed to do it. No, you're not. You don't understand it. It was about roof racks. If you had measured the conversations we had about what roof rack we were going to get on that car, you know, weeks or months at a time, it was so much fucking hours. of all the things that I've learned on this trip right now, it's just like no matter how much effort you put into planning what you do, there's going to be so many moments where you just go, I got to figure this out. It never hit me that I would have to be like a mayor of my own team and make sure everyone gets along and stuff like that. And the fact that I'm not even out of England yet and I have to deal with that kind of shit makes me go whoa.
In an attempt to resolve differences, Joe came up with a vote system where each member of his 6-person team would have a say in making important decisions throughout the trip. And since he'd done most of the work planning the route and applying for everyone's visas, he'd get to cast any tie-breaking votes. But he quickly learned that with that power came a big amount of responsibility.
It's stressful as fuck because, just a few days ago, there was a coup in Turkey, and my team is literally 50-50 split on do we go through Turkey or do we not? Do we go around? Do we go through? So I'm in this point where my vote is worth more than the others because as team leader, I have a choice to make. And it's fucking hard, man. If it were up to me, I want to roll in Istanbul and I want to have a blast. But the majority of my team is stuck in this part where they're like, not worth it. No matter what, it's not worth it.
And just the pressure of, making decisions that these are people's safety and lives.
It's people's safety and lives, and you never thought you would have to deal with that at any given point on the rally. You thought you would be like, oh, we're going to have to deal with, visas and shit like that. But never oh, by the way, I have to tell you your buddy died because I made the wrong decision. It's really, really hard.
The coup in Turkey, or more precisely, the attempted coup, seemed to be on everyone's minds. Many of the teams, including our own, were expecting to arrive at the Turkish border in less than a week's time, but the events of the past few days caused us to re-examine our routes. Marcus Kilgore said his team had planned to spend 10 days touring around the country in what he referred to as their hugely unreliable vehicle, but now they were having second thoughts.
It's my birthday, the night we're meant to be getting to Istanbul, so we plan to go out for some birthday celebrations. So we're following the situation really, really closely at the moment. We'll probably still go in, we'll probably bypass Istanbul as much as we possibly can to get across the Bosphorus. So it's just a matter of keeping your breath, it changes so quickly. I was watching the news last night when it all kicked off, and it just, thank goodness it didn't happen next week.
Right, while we were there.
We were there.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, a lot changed in a week, so we've got our fingers firmly crossed. Ideally, our biggest problem will be car mechanics, not political situations.
Other ralliers were less concerned. Chris Freund, who jokingly called himself a proper German man from Frankfurt, signed up for the trip during a night of drinking with his British friend Michael McLeod. They were wearing top hats and bow ties, and they had monocles and handlebar mustaches, all of which they said would help them charm difficult border guards they met along the way. Chris took a rational approach.
We don't have enough information to decide who should win, but for our purposes of driving through Turkey, it's important that one side definitely wins and that it doesn't turn into a civil war. And as long as there's some sort of order, we can go through it. We are not very worried about having difficulties in Turkey because we are not of a big interest to any Turkish security forces. I mean, look at us. We're driving a purple Suzuki with a pink flamingo on top. So we are not a threat to anyone.
I asked Chris if he thought his car would make it all the way to the finish line.
I think it will make it well as long as we have proper roads and we're not going beyond 2,000 meters of altitude.
Which is not going to be the circumstances you're going to be going.
Absolutely not. So that answers the question of when we will break down.
I have no expectations of success whatsoever.
His teammate Michael chimed in.
If you go and watch a movie and you go in with no expectations and it's good, you're so happy. So we're going in with the expectations of not making it past Turkey. If we come to the end, I will be so happy.
If you're going on a date and you're not having any expectations, you might be positively surprised. If you're going on a date and you're expecting a dream date, it might not work out. And it's the same with the rally. So we expect to have a pretty shitty 5 weeks in front of us. And if it's going to get better than that, we'll be more than happy.
On a more serious matter, Rosie, Jane, my brother, and I were still keeping a close eye on the news, trying to figure out what to do. It had been just 24 hours since Turkey's attempted coup, but the situation seemed remarkably calm, with the ruling party firmly back in control of the country and life appearing to return to normal. We decided to forge ahead with our plans, but play it by ear, ready to consider a last-minute detour if the situation called for it. We got a few hours of sleep, then showed up early the next day, excited for the adventure that lay before us.
So we've been looking forward to this day for close to a year now. It's finally the morning of the launch. We're at Goodwood Racetrack, and there's hundreds of people here. We're all gathered in a circle. We're getting ready to start off the event, and they've got some Mongolian flags and a few Mongolian wrestlers, I guess, to get us in the mood.
One of the organizers, wearing sneakers and a rumpled white suit, took the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, people of the earth, welcome to the Mongol Rally 2016. Let me hear you go crazy! Yeah! Keep up that enthusiasm. Wow! You guys are about to have the best 6 weeks of your life. Seriously, everything up until now has been complete and utter shit. You've wasted your entire lives. If your parents are here, turn to them and thank them for conceiving you. Because this is what life is all about. I am so jealous. Are you going on the rally, sir? You are good. Anyone who's not, oh, I feel sorry for you. Honestly, back to your jobs tomorrow. Oh, life. Oh, it's so boring, isn't it?
After welcoming us to the rally, they handed out awards for the best decorated vehicle, the team that raised the most for charity, all those sorts of things you might expect. And then there was this honor bestowed upon some guys who showed up at the start line with an SUV, in clear violation of the official rules that called for driving a tiny, crappy car.
This award is the Wiener Award, because you have chosen a 3-litre Nissan X-Trail. Shame on you! Shame, everyone! Shame! 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 How does that work?
It's a 2-liter, and we already owned it before, so you didn't want to sell it.
Why the hell and how the hell have you got away with a 2-liter Nissan Jeep?
It fits within the shipping container, so yeah, it was small enough in that regard. Everyone who just booed is not getting towed out, sorry.
This is literally how America works. We boo you, and then we do what you say. How do you do that?
Finally, the moment arrived that we'd all been waiting for. Dressed for the occasion in some ridiculously tacky vintage suits, my brother and I finished writing the names on our car of all the people who'd made donations for our trip. Then we joined the rest of the vehicles at the start line, our roof rack piled high with spare tires, extra gas tanks, and other gear we'd need for our long journey.
So we are on the Goodwood Racetrack here. Everyone's all lined up. We got people in the stands all along the side watching us.
The level of anticipation was unbelievable. Here we were, embarking on this journey unlike anything any of us had ever done before, and with little idea of what to expect in the weeks ahead.
You guys excited? You're already laughing.
Yeah, we're pretty excited.
Excited.
We've been planning for this for close to a year now.
A year's worth of planning. This is what it's all about, and you haven't gone anywhere.
We'll see how far we make it. We got the flag up, and here we go. I've never been on a racetrack before. This is kind of awesome.
Oh, it's slow.
No, it's just it's a little tiny. It's like a traffic jam on the racetrack.
So, in our 1-liter Nissan Micra, this was clearly not the Indy 500, but it was still pretty thrilling, and also totally hilarious driving alongside all the other ridiculous-looking rally cars, which were clearly not the sorts of high-performance vehicles you'd expect to see on a racetrack. There was that Norwegian team with a stuffed moose head on the back, cars with bathtubs and shopping carts on their roofs, a couple of Suzuki Samurais painted to look like the trucks in the movie Jurassic Park, and a few guys riding motorbikes all the way to Mongolia. It took us about 4.5 minutes to make it all the way around the curvy 2-mile course.
Here we are back again. We're all going out the exit to the racetrack here. There's a bunch of people on the side with their cameras, waving and applauding.
Cheers, thank you. Good luck, man.
Oh, here we go.
Some of the other teams ahead of us were already getting lost and stopping to ask for directions, and they'd barely even begun. And on top of that, we didn't get more than a few miles away before we saw the first car with its hood up broken down at the side of the road. It was going to be an interesting few months. You could see photos of the rally launch and video of us making that first lap around the racetrack at my website, farfromhomepodcast.org. Stay tuned in the months ahead because I've got a bunch more episodes documenting our trip, and I promise they'll come out on a more regular basis. Listen in as we run into trouble trying to cross into Uzbekistan.
We can see what looks to be the border off in the distance, but there's military here and a gate that's closed, and they're saying it's not open until tomorrow morning at 9. But our visas expire tonight at midnight.
Our female friends experience a culture clash while visiting a conservative mosque in Iran.
You know, this isn't my religion. This isn't my country, and I don't want to impose myself in a bad way here, but no, I don't feel comfortable, if I'm being honest.
And things get a bit hairy after we take a wrong turn in Mongolia.
So, I think this is somebody with the U.S. Embassy. He said, if you're receiving this, know that help is on the way. Expect to be picked up after sundown. Please attempt to make a fire to keep warm or stay in your car to keep warm if possible. And begin to come up with a signal plan. Fire should be your best option.
Visit my website at farfromhomepodcast.org to drop me a line, sign up for my MailChimp newsletter, or follow this show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks as always to the Public Radio Exchange for podcast hosting and technical support. Check them out at prx.org to find lots more audio to keep your ears educated, entertained, and happy. And if you like what you hear, please remember to visit the iTunes store and give a rating or write a quick review of this podcast to help others find it. I'll see you next time.
I'm going to go on my map and see what London to Mongolia looks like. Oh, no routes found.
No routes found.